Hi everyone. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to join the live so we can get started. I've been advertising the video and talking about doing this every Sunday because, I've felt such a lack of self-love and healing in the world. You know, we go to school for so many years and we are taught so many things, but self-love and healing is something that we don't really discuss, and no one teaches us the importance of honoring ourselves and loving ourselves and pouring back into ourselves. So we can get started. So if anyone comes back in, they can replay it when it's done because I'll definitely be posting it. So I wanted to share with you one of the tips that I practice every day to refill my cup instead of pouring into, because I pour so much into other people's that I've realized that I need to continue to pour into me. So I'm going to start with 3 deep breaths because your breath is definitely an act of self-love. It's a practice of appreciating that you are still breathing and that you're grateful, and letting your body know that it can be at ease. So when I hope you join in this with me, and I'm gonna put my fist up. When I release my fist is when you release your breath. Okay, so we're gonna do 3. Ready? So the breath is so important because you're also releasing the tension in your shoulders, and like I said, it's an act of self-love, remembering to breathe. So I wanted to start off simple because tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Cynthia. I am 40. Um, I went through sexual abuse as a child. I was in a very narcissistic relationship for a very long time. And I had 3 neck surgeries and have hardware in my body and was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And that was one of the scariest moments for me because um, it's an autoimmune disease and your body's attacking itself. I was on 13 medications. I was going to the doctor almost 7 times a month. And I felt very worthless and useless. I went through some verbal abuse for a long time as well. And at some point, everything started falling apart in my life. I went through a divorce. My youngest was getting sick and my health was declining. And I realized that something had to change and I had to start pouring into myself. You know, there was a point that I thought I was going to die. And I know everyone around me thought the same. And I'm sitting before you because God's grace and me taking my life back into my hands, you know, and pouring back into me. So if I can do it with all odds against me, I know that you guys can do it. And I wanted to give this to you because I also feel like you make the world a better place by definitely checking that man in the mirror, definitely by acknowledging what needs to change, self-reflection, no more projecting on others, and taking everything back in, pouring it into you. So one of the songs that I thought of before I started, and then I want to get into some tips to know how you can acknowledge and realize you're lacking in the self-love department. Um, okay, so one of the songs was, I'm not sure, if you haven't heard this song, you definitely need to listen to it. Erica Badu, Bag Lady. Um, I always liked it, but I never realized how much I was a bag lady. And in the song, she speaks about carrying and, you know, t- tells you like basically it's a metaphor for letting you know that you're carrying all this stress, you're carrying things that you no longer have to carry. And when you're in pain, it's difficult to realize that you're still carrying so much and that it's okay to let it go and to put it down. And one of the lines in the song, she says, all you must hold on to is you. And no one really taught me that, and I don't know how much of us, like I said, were taught the importance of going to school, getting degrees, acknowledging yourself, but no one's really teaching us to pour back into ourselves. So I wrote down some ways to know if you're lacking in the self-love department. And while I was working on it, I realized that I still have a lot of work to do, but it can be done. So these are some signs that you need more self-love. You're taking care of everyone else and you're depleting yourself. If you notice, everything is energy. If you're around certain people and you feel tense or you feel uneasy or all of a sudden you feel extremely tired, it doesn't matter how much you love them or who they are in your life, even if they are blood family. You need to figure out how to set boundaries and if you can be around these people. Another way of knowing is you feel guilty for taking care of yourself. Oh man, as a healer and a giver, I felt so guilty pouring back into me. I felt terrible. You are settling for less than your heart desires. This can be in relationships or career. You keep trying to pursue something, a relationship or a career, and you still feel empty. And if that's what you're going through, that's because that's not in alignment with your soul. You have relationships in your life that are one sided and they deplete you and they are not full of love and respect. Okay? You're super hard on yourself. You mistreat your body, not treating your body like a temple. So, because of all the abuse and I didn't know how to comfort myself, I definitely was an overeater. I wasn't eating always when I was hungry. I was definitely eating out of comfort a lot of times. And when you're doing that, when you have an unhealthy coping mechanism, it's time to reevaluate and see where you can bring it back to you, because overextending yourself or overdoing any type of habit that's taking away from you facing the issue and self-reflecting will definitely be a problem. Okay, I put a post up today, right? And it was talking about affirming things on Instagram. And my Instagram is meditatingcoach. And I spoke about how repetition is powerful. So, how you speak to yourself and what you're doing on a daily basis is what you're feeding and what you're fueling. So, at some point, my repetition was to just keep trying to get by, to just keep trying to make sure my kids were fed where they needed to be, but just kept trying to get by. And I was repeating the same thing over and over again and praying and expecting different results. And God is so great, and your angels and your ancestors are there to help you, but you You have to pour back into you. You have to set a different routine so that you can get the results you want. Okay, so here's a few things that you can also do. And at the end of this, like towards the end, I'm going to pick a card for guidance for what we need to work on for our healing. And also, I'm going to do this every Sunday for a month and see how it goes. And whoever arrives and is doing the work, because I'm going to give you some soul work. I'm not going to say homework. I'm going to give you some soul work on how to feed yourself and give back to you. And then I'm going to put the names in a container. And at the end, I'm going to pick someone, and someone's going to win a 40-minute healing session with me to dig a little deeper and figure out what you can do and what needs to be healed in your life. So here's some things that you can do to help you increase your self-love and appreciation and work on your healing. Also, let me just say this as well. When I started my journey of self-love, I started Herbalife. I had a coach, and in Herbalife, the one beautiful thing about them was that they're constantly teaching you to pour back into yourself. Motivational videos, a really big support system. So when I'm listening to this stuff, I'm like, this is so true, but why don't I believe it? And that's where I really had to dig deep and get into my healing and start realizing and recognizing, and having epiphanies and having those moments of, wow, because you were afraid of this, or because I was sexually abused, my boundaries were stolen from me. So I had to learn to create boundaries, and it gets uncomfortable. I remember looking in the mirror and starting affirmations, and I started crying. I didn't like to look at myself. I didn't even know who I was. I felt exactly like what people said I was. I felt exactly like a worthless piece of crap. I felt broken. I felt useless because my body didn't work the same, my hands, and I had to learn how to adjust to everything, and I felt all that. But I'm sharing this vulnerability with you because I don't feel that anymore. I can look in the mirror and I'm like, hey, Cynthia, or I'm like, Grand Rising Goddess, I love you, Cynthia. When I wake up or when I feel sad or when I need it, I comfort myself. And at first I was like, this feels stupid, or that's because I needed it more. And if it feels silly at first, then that's okay, and you're on the right track. Okay, so here's some tips on how to bring in self-love into your daily routine, and that I want you guys to begin to work on this week until next Sunday. Be intentional with yourself. Also, I think I mentioned this toward the end. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. If it takes 15, that's fine, to ask any questions you have in regards to healing and self-love. Be intentional with yourself. I was never intentional with myself, taking steps and saying, I'm going to intentionally take myself out for a walk today. I'm going to intentionally remember to take deep breaths. I'm going to intentionally remember to put my boundaries in line and be serious about my boundaries. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Also, remember, anything that promotes self-reflection is vital for you. It's so good. I didn't always like the things that I was doing or the patterns that I was seeing, But you have to bring everything back to yourself, even with the pain, even with the things that make you uncomfortable. You have to bring everything back to you. Speak kindly to yourself. Affirmations every day. You can say 3 affirmations a day if needed. My second grader says them as well, and it's very helpful to her. And if it's easy to just say the 3 and put your hand on your heart to help heal your heart. I am happy, I am healthy, I am at peace. If I'm having a difficult time, I don't dismiss my feelings, but I honor myself. And if I'm feeling sad or if I'm feeling lonely, I honor myself. I pour back into myself. I am happy, I am healthy, I am at peace. And you can go further along, but it's okay to start with baby steps. Listen to yourself. Everyone has intuition, by the way. No, not everyone has the same gift, and not everyone's able to do the same things, but everyone has intuition. Everyone is given these things to help you be closer to God, to the divine. And if you were made in His image, do you even understand the level of special you are? Do you see the world around you? That these trees were put here to help our lungs breathe. I mean, this is how amazing this world that we live in is. So listen to yourself. If you need to separate, if you're not feeling right, question you. Why am I feeling this way? Or start to journal. Journaling is your best friend because it can get you to the root of things. And remember, self-love and healing is for you, not for anyone else. Forgive yourself. I would joke with a friend of mine, and often they would say that I must have been a boxer in my past life because I knew how to beat myself up. I was constantly angry at myself because I didn't feel like I was being heard. I didn't feel like I was being nurtured or taken care of. I had to forgive myself and change things. And that's really important. Protect yourself. If you went through a situation as a child like I did, with any type of sexual abuse, molestation, rape, you have the ability to heal that inner child. And you'll realize that that inner child is so damaged when you begin to work on your healing and self-love. And I realized that I was afraid to listen to myself. I was afraid I didn't know that I could protect myself, because then I just went into, it was a pattern. And if you don't heal in self-love, you will constantly fall into patterns. You will constantly deplete yourself, and you will constantly attract what you really don't want, what you really don't need. I felt a lot of loneliness during this journey as well. But I want you to know that the more you nurture and bring it back to you, the less lonely you're going to feel. Because God is going to align you with your tribe. And anyone that is supposed to leave your life is going to. And remember that rejection is God's blessing. That is I never realized that until God eliminated or took people out of my life or helped me evolve to the next level, that I had to recognize that whoever is supposed to go needs to go. Whoever is supposed to stay needs to stay. And not needs to stay, is going to stay. Sometimes we feel, and oftentimes I felt shortchanged. And I know some of you have felt that. You felt shortchanged. If you were in a relationship that didn't work out, if you were in a marriage that failed, if you had a major loss in your family that took a really big toll on you, then you feel shortchanged. You didn't get to experience that part in your life. But I promise you, when you begin to honor and work on you, God will restore you and bring someone in your life that's going to add value that no one else could have, that person that you were grieving couldn't do for you. You are going to be restored on a whole nother level. Pamper yourself. You don't have to, pampering yourself doesn't have to be going to pay a bunch of money to get your nails done, or, you know, going to a spa. If you can do that, that's beautiful, definitely. But pampering yourself can just be sitting down, putting a face mask on, painting your own nails, reading a book to fill up your soul, to, you know, put knowledge back in your mind. Pampering yourself can be a number of things. These are another few ways to incorporate self-love. I think the most important thing too, when you're grieving someone or you're grieving a relationship or a loss, is to remember that you need you. And I often remind myself of that. I'll say, Cynthia, you need you, or I need me. I need me. And that's really important. Do one thing just for you. That can be treating yourself to lunch, your favorite meal, something fun, anything you need, anything you want. So I just wanted to start off with that and give you guys some tips on how to know that you're lacking in the self-love department. Anytime you are doing your soul injustice, or you feel uncomfortable, or you feel like you have to impress someone, you're doing yourself a disservice. You don't love yourself enough. And I still battle with that. There's times where I have to remind myself and have serious boundaries and remind myself that I deserve them and pour back into me. When I tell you, you don't have to necessarily do it in front of the mirror, you don't. I went to the gym today, right? And I used to get so upset that I couldn't do classes and I couldn't do certain things with my body anymore because of the hardware in it. And I was like, you know what? You're going to continue to care about what other people think because it's invisible to people. You know, the eye, you know, the human eyes, not the eye, can't see what's going on with me. So they didn't know. And I had to bring it back to me and recognize that you had 3 neck surgeries. You are blessed to be walking and alive. Because I remember the doctor saying to me, if you survive, you won't be able to walk. Because my spinal cord was 99% compressed at one point. And I remember my oldest daughter coming home and saying, Mom, I was in health and my health teacher said, we were talking about the spinal cord and I told them what you went through. And they said, that's not possible. You don't recover after a spinal cord injury. And I said, well, Ariana, that person obviously does not know God. And she was like, that's what I said, Mom. So when I tell you your faith will be restored on another level when you begin to honor and love yourself and heal, it will. Because when you honor you, you honor God. That's what you honor. So I'm going to pull a card for some healing guidance on what we need to work on and what you need to be mindful of, and some action steps to take. And then I'm going to go into some questions that you guys may have. This is a great card for today. Cut your cords. Ask Archangel Michael to clear any old attachments to fear that stem from past relationships, freeing you from destructive patterns. I have had people walk out of my life, and I've had to walk away from people. This is the time If you are serious about evolving and you are serious about creating the life that you want, it is time to ask for assistance and cut the cords. Cut the cords of the people that are just hanging on, that are there to deplete you, that are there to completely take from you. You need you, and you have to honor you. So, does anyone have any questions about healing and self-love? If anyone doesn't have any questions, I'll give it a minute. I hope this video was really helpful to you guys. I hope this live was helpful. And I hope that you take the time to begin to honor you and remember that self-love isn't for anyone else. What do you do if you find it hard to focus on you? You begin to make tiny step towards it. You begin to take the time to figure out what the best way to honor yourself is. I would say start off with affirmations. Start off with affirmations. Thank you so much. Yeah, start off with affirmations to build your spirit up. Because if you feel bad and you don't know how, it's because you don't feel worthy. And maybe one of your affirmations should be, I am worthy. And that's been one of mine for a long time. And I have to say that often. I am worthy for the love that I desire. I am worthy of the healing that I'm, trying to implement in my daily life. So the next question is, what is my favorite form of self-care? Nature and alone time. I love it. I love nature because it's amazing, and we don't have to put much effort. We really don't have to do much, and it knows how to live off the earth. So I love taking alone time in nature, keeping my phone away from me in the car, and taking deep breaths. So that's really helpful for me. Any other questions? Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Guys, remember that, coming on today, I'm so confident in my gift and so grateful to share it. Just when you catch someone about to do a bad habit or letting... I'm sorry, I don't even know how to go back to that. What's your suggestion when you catch yourself about to do a bad habit or letting someone back that isn't healthy in your life? Oh, that's a great question. So my narcissistic ex, right? This is what I tell people. If someone was mistreating you, or you feel like you're going to go back to that type of behavior, the best way to do it is set firm boundaries. You know the saying, draw a line in the sand? I recommend, I don't just draw a line in the sand. If I'm a very loving and giving person. If I step into your life, if I'm around you, I come to add golden footsteps and rainbows and love and light, and also honesty. If you draw that line in the sand and you pour quicksand in that line, so that means that if they even try to cross that line, they can't, they sink. So you have to, my suggestion is, get serious about your boundaries, and even writing down on a piece of paper if this person deserves to be back in your life. And if your reasoning is because you love them and they've mistreated you, I don't know the whole situation, then you don't love yourself enough yet. And that means that you need to work on your self-love and honoring yourself. Yes. Boundaries. Boundaries are everything. And like I said, either most of us weren't taught them or our boundaries were stolen from us because we didn't realize, and we don't realize that we deserve them. People will deplete you and take advantage of you and continue to steal your joy if you allow them to. You're welcome. Any other questions? And remember, boundaries are not for anyone else. Boundaries are for you. It can be baby step boundaries. I I stopped going to anything and stopped doing my soul disservice, and that's how I really evolved. When I tell you, I had no clue. I didn't believe in myself. I I was doing myself such disservice. I stopped doing anything that I didn't want to do. I don't do anything that I don't want to do. It feels so good now that people are probably sick of hearing me say no. No, I'm not doing that. Now that people are probably sick of hearing me say no. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not going there. When you feel bad, it's because we're conditioned to believe we have to deplete ourselves. No one's really teaching us to pour back into you, to restore you. So, also meditation has helped me a lot, guys. One of your main things is being scared to lose someone. One of your main things is being scared to lose someone. I know that feeling. I used to be the same way. I used to feel like I needed these people around, or I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I felt so guilty for everything. I felt bad for feeling like I deserved something or I deserved victory from an abuser. Like, that's the point that I was at. And it takes time. And even if you take 10 minutes a day to honor yourself, or really start journaling to get to know what the issues are and how you can move past them, that's what you have to do for you. You have to take it serious. Not everybody wants to evolve. Not everybody wants to get to the next level. And they're afraid because it takes a lot of work. And there were times that I was lonely. There were times that I cried. There were times that I didn't even understand what the point was. Like, I had my two daughters, but I didn't understand how to bring us out of this. And you have to dig deep. And anyone that really loves you is not going, or that's really meant to be in your life, is not going to leave you. And they're not going to, or they're not going to be upset when you set boundaries. They're not going to be upset when you start caring for yourself. Pay attention to those people that are upset. That is a huge sign. And it'll shock you. It'll be best friends, it'll be family, it'll be spouses. It'll shock you. But we have a lot of takers and a lot of people who are energy vampires and will steal your joy. Also, don't compare your journey to anyone else's. You are on your own journey and you have the right to do things the way that feels right for you and to honor you. Does anyone else have any more questions? People who truly care about you want the best version of yourself. Exactly. Exactly. People who truly care about you. I mean, like I said, I watch people, and I even watch people that knew me, I knew me before I started to really honor myself and love myself. And I see how they look at me. I feel how they're different with me, or I feel also how they don't know how to approach me. And I'm okay with that. Everyone's going to have their opinion. That's why you have to build yourself back up and cut the cords. Like the card said, cut the cords. Cut the cords. And if you need help, ask your angels, ask your guides, ask God, and ask them for a sign. Any other questions, guys? Well, if we don't have any more questions, I hope this was helpful. I I want you to pour back into yourself. The only way to really make the world a better place is to, look at that, like Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror. If you want to make the world a better place, you got to look at yourself and make that change. You need you, and you need you more than anyone around you. And if you have children, then, and you begin to honor and love yourself, that's how you that's how you teach your children. That's how you change generational curses, generational doubt. We're not what happened to us. We can totally turn our pain into power. And I believe in you guys. I know you can do it. And I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. And I hope this was helpful. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining. Take care.